Welcome to Salon Talks. I'm Mary Elizabeth Williams, and this woman next to me, this powerhouse, is Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. She is a journalist, a director, an activist. She has a CV that would blow your mind. 2 Academy Awards, 7 Emmys. You modestly say, but only 4 personal ones, right? Oh, okay. She has done so many numerous other projects. For her next big one, her next big move, she is directing the new Star Wars movie. Okay, with Daisy Ridley. First woman to helm a Star Wars film. Mm-hmm. Huge. I'm really excited about that. But for now, her new film just debuted at the Tribeca Film Festival, and it is coming to Hulu. It is co-directed with Trish Dalton, and it is called Diane von Furstenberg, Woman in Charge. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, first and foremost, I have a very important question. Is it Diane or Deanne?
I call her Diane. Her husband calls her Diane.
Okay, because the movie confused me because
Yes.
some people call her, and I thought, have I been saying her name wrong my entire life?
Well, I think she's okay being called Diane or Diane.
Okay, all right. Well, then for our purposes, for Americanized ears, we'll just call her Diane for this. She is an absolutely fascinating, incredible woman. We interviewed her here a couple of years ago. She is unlike any other force in the world. But this project is a little different from the films that you have done in the past. Your documentaries have taken on honor killing, acid attacks, very serious issues that concern women. Tell me a little bit, because I love the story of how you wound up involved in this project.
Well, I've always told stories about women who are faced with extraordinary circumstances and who rise like warriors to, and take on those challenges. And Diane's life is very much in that vignette. You think of Diane as the fashion designer and as the woman who was on the cover of Newsweek when she was 22 years old. But Diane's life and the tapestry of her life starts from World War II, which is when her mother went to Auschwitz. And she's a child of a Holocaust survivor. And from that moment, where she says her birth was also a miracle, till today, Diane's history has been interwoven with the history of the world. 1950s and 60s in Europe, very different world. 70s in New York City, completely different from the New York City you see today. And in telling Diane's story, we're also telling the story of the times that she has lived through. And that's what really drew me to this project.
And she was drawn to you, right? She reached out to you.
Diane and I have known each other for the better part of the last decade. We met on stage, so it's befitting that I'm bringing her life onto the stage. She gave me an award, Glamour Woman of the Year, in 2013. We were on stage at Carnegie Hall. The first time I met her, she was wearing this sort of glittery outfit, and she came out with this red award and handed it to me. And I had brought with me Zakia, who was the protagonist of my film in 2012 that won the Academy Award. She had had acid thrown on her face, and her face had sort of been scarred badly. And so I get the award. Diane, myself, and Zakia go backstage, and at Carnegie Hall, you have to get into an elevator to go to the green room. So the 3 of us walk into the elevator, and the elevator has mirrors, and naturally women gravitate to look at themselves. Diane told me later that she had told herself not to, so as not to offend Zakia. But when we got into the elevator, the first thing Zakia did was look at herself in the mirror and start smiling. And Diane thought that was so powerful, that this woman, life has thrown so much at her, and she's taken that adversity and converted it into her strength. And we instantly bonded over that moment. In fact, it's in Diane's book. And we kept in touch after that. and over the years, and Diane tried to involve me in another project where she wanted me to tell the stories of the women who she's been giving awards to at the DVF Awards. That project didn't work out, and I told her then that, Diane, you need to tell your story. That's the story that needs to be told. And she said, I'm not ready to tell that story. And then a few years later, Fabiola, who's our producer, came to me and said, Diane is ready to tell her story, and she wants you to be the one to do it.
It's an incredible story. There are things I've read her memoir, I've interviewed her. There are things that I knew about her. There are things I did not know going forward in this film. And one of the things that feels very timely is I knew about her love life. I knew about her sex life. I did not know her relationship with a woman when she was at university. It feels like the sexuality part of her life, she's always owned it, but she's owning it at a next level in this film.
Diane, sexual fluidity, as Nathan, her creative director, said in the film, is sexy. She has always owned who she is. And I think that is the beauty of her narrative, which is that, be who you want to be in that moment. She fell in love with a girl when she was in boarding school, and then she fell in love with a boy. And her sexual fluidity is about people and who she's attracted to at that time. And I think that it's liberating in this environment to have a powerhouse like her say, I don't want a label, I love who I want to love. And that's one of the sort of peeling of the onion as a filmmaker we did. We sort of sat with her for countless hours and talked to her about, what her life has been like. And with each sitting, she allowed us into a deeper inner sanctum of her life.
And she has these relationships with, as she says, she lived her life as a man. She's got a string of lovers, turned down a hookup with Bowie and Jagger, saying no to that, just kind of casually hooked up with Warren Beatty and Ryan O'Neal in the same weekend. I mean, good for you. Her story is so honest and open, and there's absolutely no regret when she talks about these things. She's just out there living her life at a time when not a lot of women had the freedom or autonomy to do that in a way that they weren't judged.
Why can a man live his life the way he wants to, and why can't a woman? Men live their lives the way they want to, and they're celebrated for it. And it's about time that women live their lives out in the open and be celebrated for it as well, for their choices. And I think that Diane being open about her relationships and the people she's been with is incredible, because it really does show you that you should be able to talk about your life in the way that you've led your life. Women today hide behind this sort of persona that society imposes on us, these boxes and labels and glass ceilings, and we want to fit into everything. Diane has gone and taken a club and broken that completely and shattered it and said, no, let's own up to who we are and be truthful.
And I think one of the things I really loved about this movie, and I love about her, is that her whole life, living the way she was doing 50 years ago, it is a rebuke to this idea that sexual fluidity or non-monogamy or any of the other kind of expressions we may have of our sexuality are somehow new, or somehow invented by Gen Y, or somehow a reaction to the political climate. People have been living and loving freely forever. Diane was.
Well, in the film, you're in Studio 54. I mean, there is no greater time for free love than in the 2 years where Studio 54 was around in New York City. I mean, the environment, this is before the clampdown of the Reagan eras. I mean, that was a time of free love. It was a very different time. I don't think that anyone today can really say that the acceptance that happened at that time for side relationships and it's not as accepting today as it was then. The world was a far more accommodating place in the 1970s than it is in 2024.
And another thing that really astonishes me watching this is she is this self-made business person. She has created an empire on her own. She's doing this also as a single mother. She's doing this as a working mother. And that is a part of her persona that we get to see in this film in a way that I don't think we've seen before or appreciated before, because she was this glamorous icon. She's at Studio 54. She has these high-profile lovers, but she's also raising 2 children.
I think that every woman watching this can resonate with Diane's struggles as a single working mother, as well as a woman who is trying to make it in a man's world, trying to set up a business at a time when women needed men to co-sign for something as little as a credit card. She was trying to set up a business, traveling around America, trying to sell her dresses. The path that she has led, the difficulties, the constant juggling, of having 2 young children and thinking about them and thinking about how she's going to grow her business and what she's going to do, how she's going to reinvent herself. I mean, she came to America as a very young woman, and America was not a familiar place for her. She came here to set up her home and her life, but this is not a place where she grew up. So not only was she a new immigrant to America, she was a young mother, she was setting up her business, she was trying to navigate a very different world than she had been brought up in. And so within that construct, so many parallels for women today, who will see a reflection of their own lives in that, and how children see their parents, especially working mothers. Do you have enough time for us? The guilt that mothers carry when they're thinking about, should I travel to Oklahoma in the morning and do that meeting, or should I attend the parent-teacher meeting at my child's school? I mean, this is very relatable. So while Diane is this big sort of global stage person, the idea is to pare back and really look at Diane at home, Diane with her kids as well.
And to that point, I think another thing that is important about her and important for us to really learn from and recognize is she's doing this, as she says, she's living her life like a man would. She is succeeding above and beyond many of her peers in the fashion industry, and she is also doing it in a way that is unapologetically feminine. Her tagline is wear the dress. It is embracing both of those sides of herself and doing it in a way that says, I can be in a man's world and I can do it in high heels and a dress, right? I can do it the way that I want to look, the way that I want to live.
I think we need to set the stage for what the world was like at that time, right? Because women were being told constantly, dress like men, you want to be taken seriously, don't be feminine, put on this like slightly more masculine persona so you can be taken seriously, wear pants, and Diane came along and was wearing fishnet stockings and a dress and, being sort of very sexy and being successful and challenging that idea that women had to be like men in order to be successful. Women should be women. And the fact that she was at malls in America telling women to be women, spend 5 minutes, do your makeup, look after yourself, take charge of your own life. I think this phrase that she's coined, in charge, it's something that she's sort of been honing in from a very young age and imparting to other women. Be in charge of your life, make your own decisions, find your own self-worth, hold on to that. And I think those are very important sort of lessons for all of us to learn. But even today, women in the workforce hesitate. Should I wear that stocking? Should I wear a pair of pants? Am I going to be taken seriously if I wear too much makeup? If I have one extra button open, how will I be perceived? I think that Diane was like, I don't really care. This is who I am. And that is so liberating to watch.
It's that authenticity. And when you talk about women in charge, I have to look at you as well and everything that you have done. I want to talk about you as a filmmaker in this project. This is a movie that you co-direct with someone else. You said to me earlier, you love co-directing, and you're wrangling some of the biggest heavyweights in the world in this movie. You've got Gloria Steinem, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Oprah Winfrey. I could go on and on and on. What was it like gathering that level of talent and getting them to talk about this woman and the larger context of women in the world?
It took a village to get everyone involved into the film. So we sort of divided and conquered. Fabiola, our producer, and Tracy would sort of find the people that Trish and I wanted to interview and wrangle them to come in and be interviewed. Let me just say that when people heard it was a film for Diane, everyone wanted to be part of it. It was just managing all of these people's schedules, as you can imagine. But what an incredible, all of Diane's friends, colleagues, everyone brought a very different insight into her life. Her family, first of all, provided some of the most honest testimonies I have ever heard. Children talking about her, Barry talking about her, and then her friends. Hillary set the stage for what the world was like. So did Oprah. Gloria talked about the real contributions Diane has made. And I think Marc Jacobs really set the stage of what fashion was like at that time, especially when Diane took the leap of faith to go to QVC.
Right, which was a big move, and not a lot of other people were doing at the time. I want to also ask about some of the things you've been working on. I heard you in an interview talk about the cost of doing the kind of filmmaking that you have done and the price that you have had to pay as an activist, as a documentarian, as a filmmaker. You've said you have been threatened, you've been harassed, you have read things in the press about you that were absolutely not true, your family has been threatened. Tell me a little bit about where that has come from for the work that you've done, the projects that has engendered, and what you do when you wake up in the morning, you have to keep doing this job that you love, that you're clearly passionate about, and you know that that's out there waiting for you.
Well, I'll say that I started my career by making films in war zones and about marginalized communities and about women on the front lines. And sometimes holding up a mirror to society makes people uncomfortable. And when they don't like to see a reflection of themselves, they like to shoot the messenger. And so I found that I was in the line of fire early in my career. But my mother said something to me that I think has really kept me going, which is only listen to the voices that cheer you to the finish line and drown out all the other noise. And I feel like I've done that throughout my career. I think that when you walk on a yellow brick road that you create, there is always going to be some form of resistance from people who are not familiar with seeing people like me in places where I have found myself, on podiums and in sort of rooms that have previously been closed to people like myself. I think that some people find it hard to navigate having someone like me in those spaces. But I think that has to also come from the fact that the world has been, that places of power, especially when it comes to film, have been held by such few people, that now that the doors are opening to others, that it's going to take a little bit of time for them to become okay with having representation of different shades and places and colors. And I, for one, feel like I'm ready for that challenge.
Well, I have to ask you one more question, which is about the next new big challenge, which is Star Wars. Obviously, coming into that, you talk about people who are unhappy in the world. The Star Wars fandom certainly has a segment of that who are unhappy with who gets to tell stories. Bringing yourself to a project like that, I want to know, stepping into it, did you know that there might be a reaction from the fans that was going to be a little difficult? And then what have you been learning along the way? I know you can't say too much about it, but what is surprising you as you're getting as you're getting your feet wet in this project?
You know, I think that Star Wars is this incredible franchise that was set up by George Lucas that really changed the way so many people in the 70s saw the world, and in the 80s, 70s and 80s, and the way they saw the world. It's such a deep legacy, and so many other filmmakers have walked in those footsteps. I think that I'm going to be one of those filmmakers, and every filmmaker has brought a fresh perspective, a set of experiences to that. And I'm most excited about creating a story that has Rey Skywalker, Daisy Ridley at the center of it, a Jedi Academy, sort of taking Rey's story in the future. And I bring with me my experience in storytelling, in sort of in creating characters that are faced with extraordinary challenges, and that's what Star Wars is all about. And at the end of the day, if we can create films that bring young people into the cinema and did what George did in the 1970s and 80s, if I can be part of that and I can help bring new fans into Star Wars, then I feel like I've done my job. And that's when my work will really be judged.
All right, well, I can't wait for that, but in the meantime, I get to enjoy this absolutely spectacular, very different kind of storytelling with Diane von Furstenberg. Thank you so much for joining us. The movie, you can watch it on Hulu right now, and it is really a wild ride. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching Salon Talks. If you had a good time, why not subscribe right over here so you can get more conversations with your favorite artists, actors, directors, writers, comedians, musicians, politicians, everybody you love, and I love too. And while you're here, why not watch another video right now?